Here we go. Activate live stream. How's it going, everybody? We are talking about politics today, so if you got a question about politics, let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating if you don't know all that much about it. I know that it can be very confusing because of the way that people talk about politics. It's almost like a different language, so I like to make myself available to people where they can ask me questions about politics and they don't have to worry about, this person's going to think I'm dumb if I ask this question. There was a time when I didn't know anything about politics, and I was always really worried about asking people questions about politics, and there were definitely a couple of times when I asked questions that my friends roasted me for because they said that was a dumb question, and I did not like the way that felt. So now I make myself available to people, and they can ask me questions, and there won't be any roasting or judgments or ridicule. You don't got to worry about you can ask any question that you like. You don't have to worry about, if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of cuck libtard, or if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of MAGA lunatic. There's no such things as a dumb question. You can ask anything that you like, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. Not a federal agent says, how many branches of government? 3 is the answer. It's Goldbrick says, who'd you vote for? Democrats up and down the ballot. Bobby's Truth says, what about the hostages freed the American brought home today? I have not heard about that story. Rara says, what weight makes real money, please? That is not a question about politics. Sasha Van Olsdale says, thoughts on abortion? I think we were all better off when we had Roe versus Wade protections. Ever since the Dobbs decision, women are bleeding out in parking lots. They're having to be airlifted to other hospitals because doctors are scared to treat their patients because they're worried about legal consequences for giving women medically necessary abortions. At least 4 women have died. At least one of those women was a mother before, so now there's a child out there who lost their mom because of these abortion bans. And these are women who wanted to have babies. So it's draconic, it's barbaric, it's completely morally bankrupt that we have this system now. It's Goldbrick says, do you support wasteful government spending and blatant fraud? No, I do not. It's Goldbrick, and that is why I am against the Trump administration and the Doge Commission. Rara says, no, I mean, after learning about debt ceilings, I've been pretty confused. Yeah, the debt ceiling it's weird, the simplest version of the debt ceiling explanation is that we are constantly spending more money than we have in the American government. And so every once in a while we hit the ceiling of the amount of money that we said we were not going to spend more than we had. And so, instead of completely shutting down the government and, forcing people to go without 100% necessary government services, we instead just vote to raise the limit. And, you can argue about whether or not that is fiscally responsible or not. You can say that maybe the world would be better if we just cut those services off and then people would go hungry and children would die and shit like that. But yeah, for a very long time, until the Obama administration, everybody just raised the debt ceiling. Like, it wasn't a big deal. And, there'd be a Republican president with a Congress that was mostly Democrats, and they would vote to raise the debt ceiling. And there was a Democratic president with mostly Republicans in Congress, and they would vote to raise the debt ceiling. And this all changed when Obama was elected because the Republican Party decided we're going to become complete psychotic obstructionists, and they decided that they would weaponize every channel of the government they could possibly have because they wanted to cripple the first black president and make sure that he was, as ineffective as humanly possible. And so now the debt ceiling becomes this fight, and every time there's a Democratic president, the Republicans will threaten to not raise the debt ceiling, and that will shut down the government. And it has happened a couple of times, and it is always the fault of Republican politicians. Let's see here. Gabriel says Trump's tariffs will be good in the long run. Everybody is disagrees with that, Gabriel. So I hope that you are a person who is just misinformed as opposed to somebody who is purposefully spreading misinformation. This person says Cypher PK. I don't know what that is. Rara says, you're awesome. Thank you. You're awesome, Rara. John Gundacker says, you're Canadian, so why do you care? I'm not Canadian. Darkin says, abolish the GOP. I'm not against that. The Marginal Fly Fisherman says, cripple the first black president. Okay, I'm done listening to this BS. No, that's really what happened. Like, I don't know. Where's the lie, my man? Mark, do you think universal health care would benefit us? 100%. Kind of related to politics. 100% that's related to politics. It is because of politics that we don't have, politics and greed and corruption, that we do not have universal health care. It's cheaper. The care is better. It's less of a bureaucratic burden on citizens, where, you know, I'm somebody who has, you know, utilized both Medicare and private insurance, and I can tell you that Medicare is 1,000 times better. And so, yeah, give that to everybody. Much less headache, much less heartache, better healthcare outcomes, cheaper. There's absolutely zero, you know, what do you call it? There's zero downside, except for, I'll admit this, the downside of switching to universal healthcare is that the switch would be difficult, and it would take a lot of work and a lot of effort, but if we do that switch, it will be better in the long run. Gabriel, don't say people don't agree when Trump won the electoral and majority vote, LMAO. Well, Gabriel, only 23% of the people who could vote in this country voted for President Trump. There are more people who did not vote than voted for President Trump. So I don't think that your argument is accurate there. Bubba Mayberry says, what are your thoughts on the man's blocking the doors with the Band-Aid on his neck? It's coup shit. It is literal coup shit. That is not a person who works for the government. He is just a lackey of... Sorry, having some internet connection issues here. Everybody. So sorry about that. Yeah, that guy is not a government employee. He was just a lackey. He was a goon hired by Elon Musk. It's the most, like, fucking Bond villain shit I've ever seen. This guy's literally got henchmen, you know? Linda Stearns Evans says the election was rigged. Harris is the rightful president. I would love it if that were true, but I've not seen any substantive reporting to say that that is true. Darkin says, what do you think about the general strike? I am for it. Gabriel said he won because young liberals didn't care to vote. No, they were just tricked into not voting, or tricked into voting for Republicans. Something that I'm not sure you're aware of, Gabriel, or maybe you are aware because you were purposefully doing this yourself, but there's a lot of misinformation on social media, and social media is where the people who get the news... The people that get their news off of social media, those are the voters that we needed to win the election. And so there were a lot of people who were tricked into voting for Republicans, and there were a lot of people who were tricked into not voting based on propaganda and misinformation that was on social media. Linda Stearns Evans says he admitted it on live TV. Trump says a lot of shit, and I don't even think that he knows what he was talking about. Gabriel says, debate Charlie Kirk. Now, they say you should never wrestle a pig in the mud because that's where they live, and they have a really good time doing it. Charlie Kirk is a political hack who does not mind lying. He knows that he's full of shit, and I don't think the debates are productive at all, because nobody walks away from a debate as the winner. Everybody just declares that their side was the winner, and then they take clips from the debate and they edit it to make it look like their side won, and then they put it on social media with the headline, Democrat rips Republican to shreds, or Republican owns crazy libtard, you know, shit like that. Linda Stearns Evans says, no, Trump said it. Yes, I know what Trump said, but it was vague and weird and potentially not true. Like the way that everything that he says is vague and weird and potentially not true. The Republicans did better in this election in every state. It would be bananas if Elon Musk had been able to hack every single election system in this country to increase Republican support and decrease Democratic support in this election. I would love to see evidence. I would love to see evidence of that. But right now, all we have is conjecture. Let's see here. Gabriel, I feel like he wants to be Harry Sisson and gets paid. I don't know who that is. And are you talking about me? Quality Card Break says, can you explain the Inspector General's role in government funding and department? So I have a limited expertise in that subject, but here's what I will say. The Inspector Generals in every department of the government are there to make sure that corruption and illegality doesn't happen. They are part of the system of checks and balances that we have, so that we know if weird and illegal and corrupt shit is happening in our country, and it is the reason why Musk and Trump are trying to illegally fire the inspector generals from various government agencies. Let's see here. Some guy 25 says, as in removing the motherfucker. Gabriel says, cope. Okay, well, you have a one-word response for me, Gabriel? I got a one-word response for you. Block. Alrighty. Louis 103-118 says, is it possible that Trump can be impeached again soon? Possible, but not likely, because right now Congress is in control of the Republican Party. They have got something like a 3-seat majority in the Senate, and they got a very slim majority in the House that is going to be made slimmer or larger based on a couple of special elections that are happening really soon. So if you live in those districts that are having those seats up for election, then you should make sure that you're registered to vote, make sure that everybody you know is going to vote for the Democrats in that race instead. The Republican Party has no both backbone or moral foundation. So even though Trump has already done massively illegal and impeachable shit, even though it's been like a month since he's been in office, the Republican Party is either too scared to do anything about it or too corrupt themselves to do anything about it. So they're not going to vote to impeach Trump. Also, Mike Johnson, who is the Speaker of the House, can refuse to just bring it up for a vote even. So yeah, it's unlikely, but it's definitely possible. Like, if everybody in the country got on the phone to their Republican representatives and fucking raised bloody hell and said, this dude is fucking corrupt as shit, he's ruining our country, he's ruining people's lives, children are dying because of him, and I demand that you impeach, and we put all that political pressure on those Republicans, like, maybe they'll change course. But you'll never lose money betting on Republican politicians doing the wrong thing. Moon says, wow, after what we found out with Doge, you have some nerve talking about corruption. Haha. Yeah, all the information that's coming out around what Doge found is coming from Doge. So it is worth exactly as much as a pile of nothing. It is nonsense. It is bullshit. They are a bunch of corrupt liars. All that Doge has done so far is shut down programs that help poor and marginalized people and help. And, you know, what they're doing is hurting people, the 99% and the little guy, and they are helping people that already have a lot of money and power. Like the Consumer Financial Protection Board is an agency that specifically helps people get their money back from like giant banks and shit like that. Elon Musk shut it down, and now if Wells Fargo steals all of your money, you have no recourse. If somebody wants to start like a fake bank and take all of your money, you have no recourse. Like, that is what the Consumer Financial Protection Board was for. USAID was an incredible organization that helped poor and marginalized people all around the world, but despots and authoritarians hated it because it made their job a lot harder. And so now that USAID is gone, despots and authoritarians and terrorists are on the rise. Corruption is on the rise. There's actually a global index for how corrupt countries are, and they have just given America the lowest rating we've ever gotten in our entire lives. Additionally, there are American farmers who are not going to be able to sell as much of their produce to other countries because USAID has been shuttered. Aiden says, are you Democrat or Republican? I'm a Democrat. Luke Delaney, hey, what do we need to do in the midterms in order to reverse the way this administration is going? You need to vote for Democrats, and you need to get everybody that you know to vote for Democrats, and you need to make sure that everybody that you know votes. And you got to make sure that everybody that you know is registered to vote and knows where their voting location is. Here's the thing. This is a shorthand. Could there be Republicans out there who will stand up to Trump and who have a moral back fiber? You know, are there any more John McCain's out there in the world? Maybe, potentially, I don't know. But generally speaking, if you want accountability for the Trump administration, you have to vote for Democrats. If you want the things that you want, then you should vote for Democrats. Here's the thing. Democrats have a bad image, but it has nothing to do with their platform. It has everything to do with propaganda and misinformation. So the things that you want, I guarantee you that it is in the Democratic platform. Let's see here. Juan Toom Fisk says, you fast talk, con artist, Democrat. Ben Shapiro talks fast. Do you also think that he is a con artist? Let's see here. All right, scrolling back down. Quality Card Break says, Gulf of Mexico, deal with it. That's pretty funny. Tootie says, what do you think of red, white, and blue land? I think it's dumb. I think Trump is dumb. I think that the plan is dumb. Nobody wants it. It's dumb. Let's see here. Snagglepuss 1903 says, I love everything Trump doing. Biden only sleep. Well, he was a very old man, and Biden did do a lot of sleeping, but he also did a lot of really good things, whereas Trump is only doing really bad things. The Only Spaz says, how would you try to get information about political parties that isn't just fear-mongering both sides? So here's the thing, The Only Spaz. I pay attention to politics. I read the news, and I've been into politics for a long time. And what I have seen is a slow decline of the Republican Party to the point where they are now fully psychotic psychopaths who do not do anything good. And so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, like, oh, you know, there's fear-mongering about the parties on both sides. The things that people say about Democrats are bullshit, and the thing that they say about Republicans is, you know, not bad enough. It's, you know, you can't say enough bad things about the Republican Party because their platform is bad, their politicians are bad, their record is bad, like everything about them is bad. You can call me biased if you want, but I'm literally just looking at the data, you know? If you look at the states that are run by Democrats versus states run by Republicans, the people that are run in blue states have way better quality of life and less crime and less violence and shit like that, you know? But as far as, like, how do you just try to get information about the political parties as, you know, to avoid bias, then you should try to get your information from a variety of different sources. And make sure that you're not just getting your news off of social media, because it's the Wild West on social media. Like, you have no idea what's real and what's not real out there. So, you know, try some legacy media like the New York Times, try some, centrist media like the Associated Press, try some foreign media like the BBC, and I like progressive media, you know, because I feel like the progressive media is the only media that is being accurate about how terrible the Republican Party is. And that would be things like MSNBC and crooked media. The only media that I say stay away from entirely is right-wing media, because study after study has shown that right-wing media is the least accurate, and the people that only watch right-wing media are the least well-informed, even less well-informed than people who do not read the news at all. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Let's see here. Over on Twitch, we got PeachFib. Everything you've said operates under the assumption that short-term pain is bad and that all short-term pain automatically means long-term pain. No, that's not what I'm saying, PeachFib. I'm saying that the things that Republicans do cause both short-term pain and long-term pain. They ruin things, and they try to ruin the government and break things because that is their political philosophy, that the government is bad and that we need to put more hands in the free market and individual liberty and shit like that. Whereas the Democratic platform is to try to do things and fix things. And, you know, we have oodles and oodles of data going back decades to show that that is accurate, that people live better lives under Democratic governance than they do under Republicans. Stickman says, you're part of the problem. No, I'm not. Perry says, crying is for babies. Okay. Laria says, is auditing ruining the government? No, auditing doesn't ruin the government, but what Doge and Elon Musk are doing is not auditing. It is literally just shutting down organizations that help people in the middle class and below so that they can help out the rich and powerful. Lil White Prizzle says, what data? Bring me on. I don't bring people onto my lives. But I will say that if you want the data, there is another creator named Nick Powers who does massive spreadsheets, and his data is illuminating and illustrative. So I would just check out Nick Powers' spreadsheets, and, it seems pretty definitive to me. Let's see here. All right. Austin Weaver says, you can't or won't. I won't. I don't believe in debates. I think that they're dumb. Jimmy J says, yeah, you don't bring people in because you don't want anyone to show how uninformed you are. No, I just don't want people to come on here and yell at me and call me a cuck and then spread a bunch of bullshit lies. Let's see here. Will's World says, Doge is the same program as Bill Clinton's Rego. No, it is not. I don't know what Rego is, but I guarantee you that it is not the same as Doge, because Doge is not something that was voted on by Congress. And there has never been a thing like Doge before, where there's just a bunch of fucking... The richest person in the world has hired a bunch of fucking tech bros to do a coup on the government and infect their computer systems with malware that steals our money and shuts down payment systems so that the rich and powerful can get more rich and powerful and the middle class and below can all get fucked. Yeah. I think that the Republicans at the time would have had a fucking field day if Rigo was the same as Doge. That's what they would have impeached Clinton for instead of fucking getting his dick sucked. Quality Car Break says they are known Discord hackers. I don't know who that is. The Doge people are known Discord hackers. Piece by Piece says you should bring people up. I love watching MAGA get embarrassed live. But I don't care about making people that are MAGA, get embarrassed. I am trying to get more people to vote. I'm trying to build alliances with people that voted Republican in the past and not just try to say, like, look at how much I could embarrass you in front of other people. I want to say, hey man, let me convince you that, the things that you have been told about the world and politics are incorrect. They are purposefully incorrect. You have been lied to. And, you got conned, but you do not have a monopoly on being conned. There are plenty of people on the left who got conned this election as well, conned into not voting. And, believing things like both parties are the same, or if we vote for Trump, then, it'll accelerate the demise of America and we can build a socialist utopia after it. Like, all of that is bullshit that convinced lefties to not vote or vote for Republicans instead. Michael Gary Scott says, give me your thoughts on the Department of Education. It's a great organization that, like every organization, has its flaws and has its wasteful spending. But what the Department of Education does is it supplies funding for programs that help people who are marginalized, like poor people or people who English is not their first language or the disabled. And so, taking down the Department of Education is just going to take away money from those programs, and it's going to mean that people who need help can't get it. David XS says, what about the millions of taxpayer dollars that were stolen by the last administration? The last administration did not steal millions of dollars, so I don't know what you're talking about. The Real Noah says, why do they want to shut it down? There are a couple of reasons why. I don't remember all of them, but I just know that it's part of the general Republican ethos that they want less. It's part of a push towards privatization, basically. Like, if you do not have the money to pay for a quality education, they do not want you to be able to get a quality education. They want you to be trapped in your serfhood. They want you to be trapped in poverty. And so they're trying to get rid of any program that helps to lift people up. So if you don't speak English as your first language, they're like, fuck you, don't learn, we hate you, we want your life to be miserable, be a wage slave, get the fuck out of this country. If you're disabled and you can't afford a special school that makes allowances for your wheelchair and shit like that, fuck you, sorry, go fucking work in a coal mine or shit like that, go die. That is the Republican ethos. Let's see here. Allie US says the voucher program will just allow white people to go to whiter schools and will make inner cities worse. Yeah, that's basically accurate. Timmy 2012 says I completely agree with the Republican Party aims. The problem is most of their voters don't believe it. That's the work, my man. That is the work of politics, Timmy. Here's the thing, and this is my big overarching thesis about like misinformation and propaganda and shit like that. If people pay attention to the news, if they read the news, then they vote for Democratic politicians by a factor of something like 80 to 20. The rest of the people that get their news off of social media, they are the voters that decide elections. And the way that we get information to those voters is not through social media. It has to be in person or, making phone calls or text banking or what have you. But social media is too easy to manipulate if you have a lot of power and money. And the people that own the social media platforms are incentivized to not fix those systems because it helps their bottom line. Like Elon Musk and, Mark Zuckerberg, they love having Republicans in charge because Republicans are easy to bribe and Republicans are down with cutting government regulation, and regulation is what keeps people like Musk and Zuckerberg from being even more rich and powerful than they already are. So the social media platforms are the Wild West. The information that you need to get to voters is not going to get to them. And, the propaganda that you see on there is so insidious that sometimes you don't even realize that it is hitting you. Like I've seen creators that are quote unquote leftists who are out here with their whole ass saying don't vote, who are out here with their whole ass saying vote for Donald Trump instead, he'll be better for the people of Palestine. And all of that is bullshit, man. Like, it is full on bullshit. And the reason why they have all these different flavors of bullshit to give you is because the algorithms are really good at figuring out what type of bullshit will stick onto you. So if you don't vibe with a right-wing influencer telling you how much better Republican politicians are, maybe what will register with you is the both parties are the same argument, or the voting doesn't do anything argument, or this is a new one, the it's already done, we're fucked, we're cooked, don't even bother, voting, it's too late to fix anything, all that shit. And then they just keep on feeding those narratives over and over again. So the way that we fix that is that we have to do the work. The people that know what the truth is, like the people that have an accurate view on how to fix the country and the government, like we have to go talk to people, and we have to do it in real life. Because again, if you try to do this shit over social media, then it's just going to get buried in the algorithm, and it's going to get shuffled to the people that already agree with you, etc. Let's see here. Wolves in Art says, will the Republicans turn on Trump? I would never bet on that, but if you live in a red district, then you should be as annoying as you possibly can to your elected officials. You should call them all the fucking time. You should go to their office. You should form a political action group. Like, get 5 to 10 of your friends and say, hey, we're all going to call this person every fucking day and tell them, stand up to Trump, do this shit. These are the things that we care about, and we're going to make your life fucking hell if, you try to get reelected. We're going to go after you with a primary challenger. We're going to go after you with a Democrat. Like fucking try us, man. That is the shit. All right, 13MA says, if you have the option to work abroad and leave the U.S., should I do it? I am a U.S.-born citizen. That's a very difficult thing for me to tell you to do. Like, there are a lot of things to take into consideration. I will say this, that my wife and I have talked about that and are openly considering it, depending on how, we can work it out with her job. And potentially if I can find work over there. I'm a stand-up comedian and I'm a streamer, so, I can basically work out of anywhere, but, it's a little bit more difficult for her. So yeah, I'm not going to say that it's crazy to consider it, but I can't tell you flat out whether or not you should or should not do it. Peachfib over on Twitch says, those leftists telling people to not vote is the reason centrists are put off by the left, and why taking a conservative route is less risky. I don't agree with anything that you've said so far, Peachfib, and I'm curious, because you seem, like you are engaging as opposed to just calling me a cuck and moving out. But yeah, I don't agree with that at all. Leftists telling people not to vote is the reason why centrists are put off by the left. I've heard the opposite. I've heard that people are put off by the lefties who are too passionate and are too far to the left, like the progressives like myself, who are like, universal health care, that's crazy shit. You're too crazy. You're too socialist for us, And the conservative route is absolutely not less risky. The Conservative Party has become so extreme in this country and around the world. Like, there is nothing but risk with conservative governance. Like, look at the shit that's happening in America today. We are shutting down the department of the FBI that is in charge of making sure that authoritarian governments don't rig our elections. Like, why? The Trump administration is doing everything they can to legalize corruption. Do you think that's more stable? You think that's better? You think that's safer? How is that less risky, Mason, what do you think about Trump having Gaza? So I have a bit of a theory about this, but here's the short version is this. Netanyahu has always wanted Trump to win, so he was purposefully extending the war with Gaza. Now, there are a lot of motivating factors towards Netanyahu wanting to continue the war. As long as the war is going on, then he is safe from, litigation, because he is currently being charged with massive corruption, and being prime minister is keeping him out of jail the same way that being president is keeping Trump out of jail. So he wants to keep the war going that way. He wanted to keep the war going during the Biden administration because the war was seen as a black mark on the Biden administration. Like, if you vote for Trump, then maybe we'll get peace, because Biden hasn't been able to get peace done. Trump and Netanyahu have had this understanding for a long time, that when Trump gets into office, he will let Netanyahu do whatever the fuck he wants to the people of Palestine. Whereas Biden was putting a little bit of pressure on Netanyahu, not enough for my taste by a long shot, but he was definitely putting some pressure on. We stopped sending them 2,000-pound bombs. We had put sanctions on illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank, and we were telling Netanyahu, we're gonna start we're gonna start doing stuff if you don't stop. We're gonna any day now. We're gonna start. So that's all stopped now that Trump is in office. He has resumed sending them 2,000-pound bombs. He canceled those sanctions, and he is openly talking about ethnically cleansing Palestine so that it can just all be Israel. Israel can take over Palestine the way that Netanyahu and the far right Israeli government has wanted to for a very long time. And Trump is saying, we're going to let you do that. And in exchange, you have to give us, America, some property over there so that I can build my hotels and I can make a ton of money. And, you know, you can move all of the Israelites into the rest of Palestine, and all the Palestinians will be in other countries, just the way that you want, Netanyahu. It's a quid pro quo. It is, now that I am president, you can do as much ethnic cleansing and war crimes as you want. And in exchange, you will give Gaza to America so that I can build my shitty fucking resorts on there. RC says, interesting last name. Are you being anti-Semitic, RC? Michael Gary Scott says, do you know about the Canada situation? How are relations with them right now? They're terrible. Canada hates us right now. They're canceling their trips. They're not buying American products anymore. You know, like, he has done the Lord's work in ruining our relationship with our allies, both in the first term and in this term as well. Joe256 says, but at least we're getting all those white South Africans. Yeah, thank God. That's what we really needed in this country. Braden Meyer says, what will this banning the Department of Education do to my student loans? That I'm a little less sure about. You know, because it is clear that the motivation of the Republican Party is to make sure that everybody has to pay every cent of their student loans. Even, you know, the Biden administration did great work canceling something like, I want to say $170 billion worth of student loans, something like that. I forget the exact number, but they did a great job with that. And so the Department of Education shutting it down would get rid of all the mechanisms by which we would pay back our student loans. But again, the Republican Party doesn't want to forgive student loans. So, you know, I believe that is the one section of the Department of Education that they will keep alive and well. Let's see here. 3L Ram says, but how much they send to Ukraine? Yeah, I don't care that we sent money and weapons to Ukraine. Ukraine was being invaded by Russia, and we were doing the right thing. And all of, you know, Western, you know, country, every Western civilized, industrialized country was on board with trying to save Ukraine from Russian invasion. And so it's better for the world in the long run, and it's better for America in the long run. There are a lot of people who, you know, had jobs making weapons because of that. Let's see here. Joe Gonzalez says, accountability. Such a weird idea. Does it bother you that the Trump administration has fired a whole bunch of inspector generals? Like, their job is literally accountability. Luke Delaney says, would the Democrats be more successful if they start to integrate independent party policies? What independent party policies do you feel like the Democratic Party is not adopting? Because the thing, and this is, you know, something that I have seen many, many times, is that when somebody is a member or prefers an independent party to the Democratic Party, they usually have just not read the Democratic Party platform, and they believe what they heard about the Democratic Party on social media. Cindy Jacobson Gonzalez says, do you believe Trump will be impeached a third time? If Democrats get the House back, then 100% he will. Drew Pine says, do you have a job? If so, what? I am a touring stand-up comedian. Joe256 says, do you agree with anything DJT has done in his second term? I don't know what he's done specifically, but I do know that Doge is talking about canceling the penny, and I agree that we should cancel the penny. But everything else they do is complete and utter bullshit and just hurts people and helps people that are rich. Some Guy 25 says, do we have a chance of a fair election again? We do, Some Guy, but we have to work for it, and that sucks, and I hate it. I don't want to do it either, but we do have to do the work. And the work is flooding the zone. The work is getting so many people to vote that any shenanigans that they do to try to cheat or steal the election will be overwhelmed by our numbers. And so the work is we all have to get out there and convince people to vote for Democrats. White Cheddar Mac, good to see you again. Why do all Republicans think left-leaning people don't have jobs? LOL, who told them this lie? This has been part of Republican propaganda for a long time, which is that Democrats want government programs because government programs are giving people handouts, and they love handouts because they don't want to work. Pippa K. Pippa, most countries canceled their pennies a long time ago. Yeah, I'm for it, you know. Quality car breaks. It's Mexican, not Mexicans. All right, I remember that line from Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I think that was Johnny Depp that said that. Jacobs, how do I know what side to believe when both just say the other one is lying? Okay, Jacobs, so that's an excellent question. Here is my response. Okay, there are a bunch of different ways a bunch of different tests that you can do to see if the political party that you are listening to is predominantly lying or predominantly telling the truth. The metric that I use, and I'm going to try to do some other ones because this is just the one that I find the most valuable, is I think about two things that I can see with my own eyes. Climate change and income inequality. I know that climate change is real. I'm 45 years old. I have seen climate change happen with my own eyes. I moved to New York City when I was a kid. I lived there for 20 years, and there was significantly less snow falling at the end of my time in New York than the beginning of my time in New York. And you can talk to people who are farmers, and they will tell you that they have had to keep on moving their crops north because the climates are no longer they're not hospitable to what they're growing anymore. And yet the Republican Party is still telling us that climate change isn't real. And they've been telling us this for a really long time. So if they're saying that, and I know that that's bullshit, then I can't trust anything they can say, right? That's number one. Number two is trickle-down economics. The Republican financial policy is still trickle-down economics, and it has been, since Reagan at least. We have been living under some version of trickle-down economics since the 1980s. Even under Democratic presidents have not been able to scale back how much trickle economics we are doing. And we have the worst income inequality that we've ever had in this country, even worse than the Gilded Age, which was an age that was named after how bad the income inequality was back then. Everybody is poor. Everybody is struggling, and the rich have never been richer. These fuckers have hundreds of billions of dollars, which is such an unbelievably large amount of money. We cannot even fathom it. And they're still telling us that the rich need more. The rich have this unfillable fucking hole. And if we just give them a little bit more of our money, if we just struggle a little bit more and do without a little bit more and maybe get a third job or a fourth job, maybe instead of working 60 hours, we can work 65 or 80. If we just get rid of some more benefits for the workers, then suddenly trickle-down economics will start working. It hasn't, it won't, but they're still saying that it will. So just based on those two, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure you guys are 100% full of shit. And then if you start reading the news, then you see more and more examples of that, of them being liars who are completely fucking full of shit. Now, if you don't want to use those metrics, then I would say just get your news from multiple sources, and you will see the same thing. You will see, so long as you are not just watching right-wing media, if you are checking out progressive media, if you're checking out centrist media, if you're checking out foreign media, and balancing all of that together, then you will see that the Republican Party is completely full of shit. And Democratic Party, as flawed as it is still leagues miles better. Allie, US says, I want to know where are our former leaders banding together and speaking out against this? I mean, the Democratic Party has been speaking out against this. It's just the Republican Party who is, notably silent and obeying dear leader. Peach Fib, so that's a very long comment and I want to get into it, but it's difficult for me to do the short comments over here and then the long comments over here. So give me a hot second. Wait. A bunch of people are calling me a liar now. Oh, no, it's just this guy, Jorge. I don't lie, Jorge, so you can miss me with that shit. Okay, scrolling down to the bottom of TikTok. Elon Musk is making $800 million a day from the government. That seems... I don't know if that's accurate, but, yeah. That number seems a little too big, but I'll... Show me some data and I'll believe it, but that seems a little above the pale for me. Let's see here. Jilly, aren't both parties rocking with capitalism? Yeah, but there's different varieties of that. Capitalism and socialism and communism, these are not systems that can't exist with each other. There are plenty of countries who are a little more socialist than America, but still capitalist. There are companies here in America that are completely employee-owned, which is a communist principle. So yeah, the idea that if a Democrat is somehow at all pro-capitalism, that they are just as equally bad as Republicans is untrue, and it is inaccurate, because the Democratic Party has more people who want the social programs, who want to encourage employee-owned businesses, who want to encourage the social services that help people, than the Republican Party. The Republican Party is in the bag for the billionaire class, and that's free market capitalism right there. Is like, let the rich get richer, let the poor get poorer, let the rich become our new fucking overlords. Noah says, how do you feel about mass deportation? I'm against it. John Christie says, employee owned in the free market, though. Yeah, but I mean, we also don't live in a free market. There are plenty of regulations, and good regulations as well, and bad regulations, but, good regulations too. I'm not anti-regulation the way that, the Republican Party is. Julie says, I think the Democratic Party has done a magnificent job on everything you've just described. Well, I don't remember what I just said, so I hope that you're being sincere and not sarcastic. Tara says, I worked for an employee-owned company for years. It was amazing. Yeah, they should all be, I think. BS2 says, at what point will MAGA see the Emperor's New Clothes? I'm not sure that they ever will, because propaganda is a hell of a drug. And if you are constantly plugged into the IV drip of Republican bullshit, even if you're just on social media and the algorithm is feeding you exactly the misinformation that you need to hear, then some people never get out of their holes. Like, I thought that things had gotten so bad during COVID in 2020 that everybody was going to wake up. And the fact that, yes, Biden won that election by 8 million votes, but it was really only like 40,000 votes broken up between 3 states, was shocking to me, and tells me that there is no world in which these people's lives could get so bad that they would not believe that it is actually the fault of immigrants or trans kids or Democrats or the poor. Trump could literally be taking a shit on these people's faces, and the propaganda would be telling them that the poop is coming out of his butt and landing on their face because of Democrats and immigrants. And, again, they do not have a monopoly on getting conned. And I will point you to all of the lefties who did not vote in this past election because they were convinced that that was the right thing to do. Alrighty, let's see here. Mags are cult. What do you think? I think there are a lot of similarities between MAGA and a cult, 100%. John Christie says, that's all the Dems care about is feels, not facts. That's not accurate, John Christie. Actually, kind of a jerky thing to say, so I'm going to get rid of you. Let's see here. Jonathan Hughes says, how do you feel about Doge getting rid of the CPB? Do you mean the Consumer Financial Protection Board? Because I think you're missing an F there, if that is the organization that you're talking about. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad for people. It's bad for the 99%. The Consumer Financial Protection Board is an agency that returns to the American people more money than they spend to maintain the Consumer Financial Protection Board. The Consumer Financial Protection Board makes it so that banks run better and more fair, and there's less corruption and there's less scams because of that, and people are protected. Banks have admitted that just the mere existence of the Consumer Financial Protection Board has made them be more careful about not accidentally overcharging their customers and, obeying the letter of the law. Because without it, then we have less recourse. We have nobody else fighting for us. And that's the reason why Elon Musk and Donald Trump want to get rid of it. They want to fuck over the 99% and help out the billionaires. That's their whole fucking motivation. Let's see here. Peach Fib. All right, I'm going to get to this big-ass comment that you have put on my thing here. Well, if you're also put off by how leftists have gone, but not enough to choose conservative because of the assumed veil of corruption, I would point to the cost of living and affordability crisis that is at the center of the conservative movement. Subsidizing is a double-edged sword. The government influences prices, from oil subsidies to endless student loans. The government hides the true cost away from the consumers in the open market. So again, Peach Fib, what you're doing here, you're making a very cogent argument that has just like these tiny little things in them that are inaccurate, and therefore, but they're so subtle that it seems like you are making a correct point. But here's the thing. The reason why cost of living has gone up has nothing to do with government spending. It has everything to do with greedflation, and it has to do with mistakes that Trump made during his administration, and monopolization as well, which is a Republican principle as opposed to a Democratic principle. So just going through that list really quick, the Trump administration fucked up the COVID response so bad that our supply chains got fucked. That decreased supply and increased demand, which caused inflation. Also, the tariffs that Trump put on other countries increased the cost for things here in this country. Additionally, he made a deal with the oil-producing countries to lower oil production during COVID because nobody was driving their cars, but that deal didn't end until 2022. So oil prices were going up during the Biden administration, no fault of his own. So that's one part of the coin. The other part is greedflation, where these companies don't have any competition anymore because of the Republican idea of the free market and letting companies do these giant fucking mergers so that now everything is owned by like the exact same 10 companies. So there's no competition, so they can raise prices and, you know, nobody can challenge them by giving a better product at a lower price anymore. And if anybody does, then that company gets bought up or destroyed using regulatory capture and shit like that. And the reason why all this has been allowed to happen is because of monopolization. Because since the Reagan administration, the attitude of the Federal Trade Commission has been to be more laissez-faire about companies conglomerating and, and owning each other and becoming fucking massive. And, during Democratic administrations, we put a little bit of pressure on it, but there has been this like neoliberal philosophy of being more business friendly, ever since Democrats got their fucking asses handed to them in the 80s and early 90s until Clinton got elected. And one could argue that Clinton got elected because he was more of a business-friendly neoliberal than what we thought of as Democrats being like these hippy-dippy flower children who just wanted to, put our feet in the dirt and shit like that. But yeah, during the Biden administration, we were finally starting to crack down, and the Lina Khan FTC was starting to break apart all these monopolies. Inflation was coming down under the Biden administration from 9% back down to 2.4%, which economists say is the money spot. Like, that's where you want to be. And I think it is very telling that since Trump has been in office for only a month, inflation has gone up for the first time since it hit that 9% peak. So yeah, I do not think that your argument there is accurate. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed my little rant there. All right, getting back into these TikTok comments. Blue Falcon says Sherman Act doesn't exist anymore. Did I miss something? I need to look that up because I'm not familiar with the Sherman Act. Let's see here. Blondie says Trump wants to be dictator. What do you think? I think that is the most accurate thing that I have read all day. Draco says, in what scenario could an independent or third party be elected? I think that a couple of things would need to happen, Draco. Number one, we would need ranked choice voting, because without ranked choice voting, any third party candidate would just be a spoiler. Number two, I think that the third parties need to do a better job of building up infrastructure to actually win federal elections. At the moment, they just do these dumb spoiler candidate, ego-driven, cash grab runs for president every 4 years. It is complete and utter bullshit. The only party that is doing it the right way is the working family parties. They are slowly building up their political strength. And the third thing is, like, maybe if there was like a once-in-a-lifetime candidate that got everybody in love with them, but I think that the chances of that happening are basically zero. Dan Blackwood says, how do we cut through the alternate reality that MAGA lives in? Dan Blackwood, I'm surprised that you're regular. Haven't you heard my rant about this already? So here's how we cut through the alternative reality that MAGA lives in. We got to talk to people, and we got to talk to people in real life. The media is not going to do it. Social media is not going to do it. Posting is not going to do it. Retweeting is not going to do it. It has to be real in-person conversations. And ideally with people that already know you, because I canvass, there is limited efficacy to a stranger showing up at somebody's door and trying to convince them to vote Democrat. It is way easier if it is somebody in your family or a friend of yours or a coworker or a neighbor that you see every day. Like, those are the ways that you do it. And you got to be cool about it. Like, you can't be like a fucking debater on, TikTok who just has Republicans on so that he can own them. You have to meet people where they are. You got to find the common ground. And you got to say, all right, here are the things that we can agree on. Let's look at this data. Let's try to figure this out, Talk about the politicians disabuse people of the false narratives, let people know, hey, that's misinformation. That's actually propaganda, blah, blah, blah. What we know is that data doesn't actually change people's minds, but emotions do. So if you tell somebody the statistics behind why abortion is better than making abortion legal, the Dobbs decision is worse than the Roe decision, then they are not going to be swayed. But if you are a woman who had a medically necessary abortion and you were told to go bleed out in a parking lot and you share that story with somebody, then that actually has the ability to change somebody's mind. More so than just saying, like, look at all these women that are hurt. Look at how, maternal mortality and child mortality has gone up, has skyrocketed in states that have banned abortion since the Dobbs decision. All right, Apex 24/7 Legend says, are you right-leaning or on any policies? I don't think so. Probably not. I haven't heard anything. The thing is about the Republican platform, it's full of a lot of platitudes and not a lot of policies. So they'll say things like, our platform is making America strong and free. And I'm like, okay, well, everybody's for that. We are for the safety of our citizens. Okay, but does that mean mass deporting anybody that's brown? That's not what I'm on board with, Apex 24 Legend says, why should I vote Democrat? Serious question. I love this question, Apex. Tell me what is the issue that is most important to you. Blue Falcon 0311 says, it's a sad world, but then again, martyrs are what make the world turn. That's pretty depressing. I don't think that we need to live in a world with martyrs. I think that we can not have martyrs. Jeremy Girdler says, why are politics still a thing in 2025, for fuck's sake? Ban politics. No, politics is our government. That's politics. And, the government is better than not having a government. How will we protect ourselves against fucking Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg if we didn't have the government? John Gallus 19 says, are you mad about Doge? I am mad about Doge. D. Harch, Dems don't have a face. Rolling our waters. Schumer and AOC is going to continue to make them lose. D. Harch, that is really a poorly structured sentence, first of all. But also, I don't think that anything that you said was accurate. I'm not going to block you right now because there's something about your question that made me feel like maybe you are a real person and not just a troll. Rick says, hate audits? Interesting. No, I like audits. I just don't think that what Doge is doing is audits. I'm actually going to roll that back and say that I know that what Doge is doing is not audits. John Gallus says, just curious, did we appoint Fauci? Sorry, I lost your comment. It got scrolled up or something like that. Apex Legends over on Twitch says, affordable housing and food. Really just everyday life. Okay, yeah. Did you hear my rant about how Trump caused the affordability crisis during the Biden administration? Let me know, and maybe I'll give you a short version. But I already bored the people on TikTok with that one. So let's see here. Number one, Toshiro says, do you think politicians bought out by Boeing and Lockheed Martin are a problem? Absolutely. And the Republican Party has done nothing but make bribery and corruption easier. Derek, how did people take Kamala Harris seriously? She's the most unqualified candidate ever. That is demonstrably untrue, Derek. She was an extremely qualified candidate. Just being vice president makes you a more qualified candidate than Donald Trump was. Danny Romano says, this dude's been wrong so many times, you says anything for views. That's not accurate, Danny Romano, and that's a mean thing to say, so you're out of here. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but just ask a question, be part of the conversation, guys. Sunshine Wildflower, can Trump be arrested and jailed without being impeached first? No. No, he cannot. The Supreme Court decision saying that presidents have immunity for official acts while they're in office keeps that from happening, and there's a Department of Justice memorandum that said that sitting presidents can't be indicted. So it is there were a lot of things that would have to change before that could happen. Not sure said, did you fall for Russiagate? Russiagate was not a hoax. Russiagate was real. If you read the Mueller report, you would know that. Darkin, has anyone seen Don't Be a Sucker film? I have not seen that. Derek says, you're counting position titles as qualifications. Her intelligence made her. All right, yeah, you're just being a jerk if you just say that she wasn't intelligent. She was extremely intelligent. You don't get to the place that you're at if you're not intelligent. Not sure says, read the report. You are incorrect. Oh, so that you know that Russia colluded with the Trump administration and that the Mueller report said that they just didn't have sufficient evidence to charge them with that. And the reason why they didn't have sufficient evidence is because the Trump campaign was guilty of obstruction of justice for destroying evidence that they were told not to destroy. So you're saying that you agree with me then, because that's in the report, and you're saying that was a you're saying the opposite of what was in the report. Yeah, Apex Legends, let me know if you heard my rant about affordability. Aiden says, are we cooked? We are not cooked. There is still a chance that we can get out of this, that we can have a better country, that we can stop all the shit that Republicans and Trump and MAGA and Elon Musk are doing. But we have to do work, and I hate that, but that's the case. And so I hope that everybody watching this will join me in doing the work, because if we all do the work, then I don't have to do all the work. No Ditto says, were all the Democrats really supportive of Kamala? I'm sure that there were some who weren't. Everybody that I talked to was really excited about Kamala. You can't really trust the things that you see on social media. So exactly as many people as I saw that were crazy about Kamala are exactly as, suspect as the people who were not crazy about Kamala. But everybody that I talked to on purpose was very, not on purpose, everybody that I talked to in real life was very excited about Kamala Harris. Let's see here. Aiden says, how can we help? Oh, well, that is an excellent question, Aiden. And let's see here. And it leans perfectly into the speech that I always give in my outro. So I'm at about an hour. I do my outro at around an hour, but then I always take questions after the outro. So please stick around and check out the final questions after the outro. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody for the questions and for the comments here on TikTok, on Twitch, on YouTube. I love doing these lives, and it is comments and questions from you guys that make me doing these lives possible. I appreciate any support that you guys can give me, whether it is the free kind, like likes and shares and telling everybody how great my live streams are and that they should check them out. If you can afford to do the financial kind of support, I have a Patreon that you can find on my website, jarrettberenstein.com. I also have a store, jarrettberenstein.com/store, and you can also send gifts here on TikTok and on Twitch. And maybe on YouTube. I don't know if on YouTube, but I know we are all suffering through a cost of living crisis, so I'm not going to throw shade at anybody for not being able to, throw any coins my way. My normal streaming schedule is Tuesday through Friday, starting at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I often start early because I really like doing these, and I also sometimes augment my schedule with a Monday because, again, I really love doing these. My current stand-up schedule is on my website, jarrettberenstein.com. So if you ever want to come see me do stand-up, you can check it out there. My DMs are open, and you can also email me through my website if you have any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream. And here is, somebody asked me a while ago if what you can do to help. This is the part of the outro where I say what you can do to help. You got to do something. And the something is what I like to call the work. And I'm on here all the fucking time talking about the work. And here's what the work is. The work is we got to talk to people. We got to do the work of convincing people to vote and to vote for Democratic politicians and to vote for better politicians because, there are different flavors of Democrat as well. I use the shorthand of saying Democrats because on the average, Democratic politicians are better than Republican politicians, and Democratic platform policies are better than Republican platform policies. And so let's vote. Let's vote in primaries. Let's vote in midterms. Let's vote in special elections. And let's vote for better over worse. If we vote for better over worse, then maybe eventually we'll get to good and then maybe great one day. There are already great organizations out there doing the work. So if you don't want to be self-motivated and just go start talking to your friends and families and neighbors and coworkers about this shit, you can join groups like Indivisible. Indivisible is doing the work of putting political pressure on our elected officials and trying to swing elections back to good politicians. Run for Something is an excellent organization that gets young progressives to run for office. They only endorse candidates who are under 40 and who are running for local and state elections. Vote Save America is a great organization that is get out the vote and engaging with voters to try to convince them to vote and to vote for better politicians. I would say follow AOC because it seems like she's got her finger on the pulse of Resistance 2.0. But yeah, we just got to do the work. We got to do the work of fighting these propaganda narratives, of convincing people that voting is better, that voting for Democrats is better, and helping people out if people need help registering, if people need to know where their polling location is. If there's an old person who's a ride to the polls because they can't walk that good, like that's all the work that we got to do. And we can't expect our work to be transformational the second that we do it. We have to, sometimes you do filing for a group, and that is the help that you are giving. If you knock on 1,000 doors and you don't convince one voter, that's 1,000 doors that somebody else didn't have to knock on, and now that person gets to do the convincing of, getting people to vote and vote for Democrats. So that is the work. There's a million things to do, and if we get enough people on board to do it, then nobody has to do it all. Join me. Help me not do as much work as I can't do it all myself, guys. I can't do it all myself. All right. So that's the speech. That is the speech. Peach Fib says Discord. I do have a Discord, actually. I don't think anybody's on my Discord, though. I made one, but I don't know if anybody's on there. Dirty-ish says, yes, vote red. No, that is not the move. One person with one follower who is following one person. Jesus Christ. Let's see here. Jess V. Us said, I would love to do filing. I would also love to do filing. All right, let's see here. Apex, I already answered that question about when I'll be back online. Did you hear my whole speech about affordability, Apex? I'm still waiting on that answer. Kevin Wood says MAGA. So yeah, I don't really care if you have different opinions than me, but just, ask a question, be part of the conversation. Carmine says, do you have a Valentine yet? Yes, I did ask my wife a couple weeks ago to be my Valentine. B says, Trump 2025. You already won that election, buddy. I don't know what you're still fucking yelling about. TR Kiffer Figures 117 says APAC. APAC is a far right-wing organization that supports right-wing candidates. I don't like them. GI says, will the world ever recover from Trump? Yes, but we all have to do the work. And, it sucks. But that's the only way that we get out of this, guys, is if we all do the work. Edward says, what if Doge finds widespread corruption? Would that change your view? It would, but I don't trust Doge to tell me when they find corruption because they've already shown themselves to be completely fucking full of shit. They called out Elon Musk for spreading that lie about condoms for Hamas. And he's like, hey, I'm going to say things that aren't accurate sometimes. And I was like, oh, bro, really, bro? Really, bro? Okay. So yeah, I would need an independent organization, a bunch of different news outlets to report on it. And if they find it, fucking God bless them, my man. Like, go for it. But I don't trust him, and I know that there are a lot of right-wing trolls on here who have been saying, what about all the corruption and, wasteful spending that they've already found? And I'm like, I've already found that they've told you that they've found. Like, nobody agrees with them. They're breaking the law. They're making us less safe. They are ruining people's lives. There are more babies with AIDS now because of what Doge has done. There are more children who are going to starve to death. The Republican Party has canceled, medical research funding. Like, who's for that? The first thing they cut was pediatric cancer research. Pediatric cancer research. So, drugs that would help children with cancer. Republicans like, yeah, we don't need to spend money on that. Metamoto says, would you trust Doge if it was appointed by Democrats? Well, first of all, it wasn't appointed by anybody. It was just, it was ruled by fiat. It is not an organization that has been approved by Congress. It is a rogue agency run by the richest man in the world. So, yeah, the apparatus of Doge would never exist under a Democratic administration. But there already is an Office of Accountability and Management. Budget, I forget what it's called. It's called like the MAOB or something like that. And so, yeah, there already is an organization for government oversight. Doge is literally just canceling programs that help people so that they can help rich people. Blanca Girl says, do you think Doge will be shut down completely since it wasn't real to begin with? That would take Republicans to do it. And Republicans they either don't want to stand up to Trump, they're scared to stand up to Trump, they like what Doge is doing because they're a bunch of pieces of shit who also want to hurt poor people and help the rich. And when I'm talking about, and I want to be clear about this also, because I said this earlier on the live, but I want to make sure that everybody hears this. When I criticize Republicans, I'm talking about the politicians, because there are plenty of good Republican voters out there who were just tricked, who were conned, they fell for it, and I know it's frustrating, but again, they do not have a monopoly on getting tricked. A lot of liberals did not vote in this past election. They got conned too. So yeah, and we need to bring them into the fold. Garrett Stiltner said, so you're cool with sending millions to other countries but not helping us in North Carolina and Tennessee. So, Garrett, that is misinformation, what you just put out there. I'm going to give you an opportunity to be open to hearing that it's misinformation, but if you continue with that, then you're going to get blocked. Hi says, do you believe the news stations should go back to just reporting the news and have no affiliation with any political party whatsoever? So the only news organization that has an affiliation with a political party is right-wing media. Like, right-wing media is for propagating Republican propaganda narratives that help elect Republican candidates. There is no other news organization that is a wing of a political party. There are certain organizations that get accused of being like in league with the Democrats, like MSNBC and Crooked Media, but those are independent news organizations that are called progressive because they accurately point out how much worse Republicans are than Democrats. So yeah, the news is independent unless you are looking at right-wing media. Let's see here. Adam Porter says CNN and MSNBC. Yeah, not affiliated with the Democratic Party. So sorry, buddy. Garrett Stiltner says, I'm listening because we have no FEMA help besides 750. The most of everything going on is volunteer work. Again, Garrett Stiltner, I don't know if you are doing this on purpose or if you just got lied to and you're believing the lie, but the Biden administration and FEMA did everything that those states asked for. They gave them everything they asked for. And they even said, the Republican governors of those states said that they said FEMA is doing the work, and they were upset at the misinformation that FEMA was not there because it meant that it was harder to get assistance to people because people weren't showing up at the aid centers. And so these Republican governors were saying, don't believe what you're seeing on the internet. Don't believe what Trump and Musk are telling you. Go to the FEMA centers because they are there. They are doing the work. And yeah, that is that is the answer to that question. And here's the thing, guy. Republican politicians might like to scream and yell about all the money that we're sending to Ukraine or whatever, but their plan is not to use that money to help citizens here in this country. They just want to give it to their rich buddies. All right, Garrett, let us hope that any of that stuck in your noodle. Carmine, wasn't there a law that made sure published media wasn't biased? There was. It was called the Fairness Doctrine. Reagan rolled it back because, of course, Reagan did. And it basically said that any news organization had to present both sides of any argument. And getting rid of it was a mistake, but I honestly don't know if bringing it back would solve the problem because, Fox News did do a really good job of pretending to do this. They hire feckless Democrats to present what they consider to be the Democratic argument. There's a woman who's doing this right now, I think on The Five, and she's a little bit better at it than the guys that they used to hire, but like Crossfire with Tucker Carlson, like that guy was, he was a weenie, like he didn't do a good job of arguing Democratic policy points. Crazy Lab Girl says, not Reagan, Clinton. Clinton 100% did not get rid of the Fairness Doctrine. That was 100% a Reagan move. Brendo Steve says, I guess people were expecting airdropped houses or something. Not bad. Not bad, my man. Blondie, you are right about giving money to millionaires. Completely agree with that. Steve Merritt is confirming that it was Reagan. All right. Over on Twitch, we got another long comment from Peachfib. The value of money comes from your ability to outbid your neighbor on a limited resource. How do you appeal to middle-class Republicans in red states that are dealing with gentrification as blue state Democrats with incomes inflated by government spending are coming to reap the benefits of the lower cost of living states? Peachfib, again, man, what is going on? Where did you get your education from, man? Because, man or woman, I have no idea who you are. Because so many of the things that you say, they're just like, it's like a sponge that has soaked up a lot of wrong information. And so it's very smart what you're saying. It's just inaccurate. Like, the value of money comes from your ability to outbid your neighbor on a limited resource. That is, it's kind of saying supply and demand, but that's also not the total value of money. Part of the value of money is our faith in it and, the governing body that is behind it. Like, the strength of the American economy is behind the dollar, for example.
How do you appeal to middle-class Republicans in red states that are dealing with gentrification as blue state Democrats with incomes inflated by government spending? Incomes in blue states are not inflated by government spending. Incomes in blue states are inflated because that is where the high-paying jobs are, because that is where people want to live. And because so many people want to live in those places, then housing costs go up, cost of living goes up, and then those places, those companies that are there need to pay more money to their employees so they can afford to live in those places. And listen, I'm not trying to say that blue states are perfect, but they're leagues better than living in a red state. And if you want that data, go check out a creator named Nick Powers. He has the spreadsheets, he has all the data. It is very thorough, and he tells you his methods. So yeah, you can go look that stuff up. But how do you appeal to the middle-class Republicans in red states? I would just say what I would say to any middle-class person, which is that the Republican Party is trying to destroy you. They are trying to make it so that there are only billionaires and the poor, and that is it. And if, you can roll the dice and try to be one of the billionaires, but 99% of us are going to be fucked by these policies. If they are middle class, they probably have a boss. I'm going to say, listen, man, your boss is going to fuck you over because of policies that the Republican Party are championing. Your union is going to protect things like a 40-hour work week and weekends and vacations and maternity leave and shit like that. And they're going to make sure that you are protected from, unfair labor practices, like firing you for trying to start a union or firing you because you won't fuck them and shit like that. The laundry list is long of, Republican policies that are designed to fuck people over and help rich bosses. And that is how it would appeal to them. I do not know that red states are being, muscled out of their homes because of blue state liberals moving in with all of their, high-paying, government jobs or high-paying tech jobs or whatever. If that is something they have a problem with, well, that's the fucking free market, man. That is the Republican policies, in a nutshell right there. But yeah, I don't really know what to make of the flight to red states. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but the fact of the matter is just it is entirely due to the cost of living crisis and not due to the fact that people want to live in these states. People are moving back in with their parents. They are moving to places where they can afford real estate. And, that is going to fundamentally change the demographics of those places. And I have no idea what that's going to mean for people. And if that means that they're struggling, I'm really sorry. But, maybe vote for politicians that will help you through that, because Republicans don't really give a shit. They're going to tell you to kick rocks. They're going to tell you that the problem is, Democrats moving in. It's like, do something about it, man. What are you going to do? You're going to tell people they can't move to your state just because of their political beliefs? Let's see here. Jeremy Girdler says, why would Linny Lee come out against Biden if it weren't true? People always bandy this woman's name around. I have no idea who she is. I have no idea what she said. There are certain things that happen in right-wing propaganda circles where it becomes shorthand for the people in those circles, but everybody else has no idea what you're fucking talking about. It's the same shit with Hunter Biden's laptop, and people on my lives would say things like, what about the Italian satellites that stole the election for Biden? I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Laura, Republicans also tell them to put them up from their bootstraps. Yeah, that's how I'll tell the people in the red states who maybe can't afford their houses anymore because all the liberals are moving in. I guess, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Let's see here. Katie Britt is already crying about cuts in her state. Yeah, there you go. TikToker says, you're talking as if Dems haven't been in office for 12 of the last 16 years. TikToker, that is another right-wing propaganda narrative that is complete and utter bullshit. Democrats have held the presidency for 12 of the last 16 years, but isn't it interesting that they would choose that specific window? Because if you just add the 8 years before Obama, then suddenly that's 20 of the last, that's suddenly, what is it? 12 of the last 16 years. So we had 8 years of Reagan, 4 years of George W. Bush. That is 12 years of Republican rule. 8 years of Clinton. So now it's 12 to 8. Then we have another 8 years of W. Bush. So that's 20 to 8. Then we have 8 years of Obama. So now it's 20 to 16 again, right? And then you have 1 year of Trump, so now it's 24 to 16. Then you have 1 year of Biden, so now it's 24 to 20. And now you have another 4 years of Trump, so now it's 28 to 20. So there you go, man. Like, wow, what an interesting slice of data to try to make it seem like every problem is caused by Democrats because they were in power for this very specific window that you are focusing on. Unfucking believable, man. Also, you're not taking into account the fact that Congress exists, that the Supreme Court exists. Like, the president is not a dictator as much as Trump and Republicans want the president to be a dictator when there's a Republican in office. So, yeah, the fact that Obama had a supermajority for like 8 months and then, lost it and then lost, Congress for the rest of his term as president. And then, Biden had a majority in the House and Senate until, just for the first 2 years, and then he lost it. So, yeah, you are making it seem like Democrats had full power over everything that happened in this country during 12 of the last 16 years. Alrighty, let's see here. Nick Jones says, bro, no one is talking about a dictator. That's not happening. It literally is happening, Nick Jones. Lots of people are talking about it. I don't know what you're talking about. Seems like you're just trying to spread propaganda. One Love says, who are you that people should listen to? I'm just a guy who knows a lot about politics. Let's see here. Maddie, how would you describe Trump's foreign policy? Fuck everybody else besides me and my rich buddies. If you are an authoritarian, then we can be friends because we agree that we should just take over smaller, weaker countries and steal all their resources and fuck people over. This should be a world for rich elites like me, and everybody else can just fucking go kick rocks. Also, there are too many, there's too much peace in the world. It was better before World War II when you could just invade your neighbor and we didn't have a UN and shit like that. So yeah, everybody for themselves, every man for themselves, every woman for themselves, every country for themselves. Yeah, shit like that. Lovely Renee says, I can't believe some of the things that MAGA say. Shaking my head. Yeah, Nick Jones says, everyone but the USA. Yes, you're correct. I think you are. I don't think you're a nice person, Nick Jones, if that is how you sincerely feel. You're out of here. All right. Maddie says empathy is the final boss, apparently. That is very, very funny. All right. I am going to head out, everybody. Thank you for being here. I will see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Do the work. Thank you for your support. And I will see you tomorrow. Have an excellent rest of your Wednesday, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. Goodbye, Peach Fib. I'm not gone yet. If you want my Discord link, go to my website, jarrettbranstein.com. All right. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.